Um, hey,
You
we're
know, the
recording.
last time we all met was another weird time.
Yes,
So,
it was,
Yes, that was
without a doubt. Bart, tell us that story. First, Bart, say who you are for the people and tell them what you do.
Bart McKinney, you want to know what I do for a living?
Sure, why not? I'm gonna ask you about that stuff. If you're all right talking about it, some people aren't.
Oh, no, I'm a commercial roofer. So,
Right on. Then you and I talked about this a little bit, and things are kind of business as usual for you guys, isn't it?
my life is so sad it hasn't changed a lick.
Well, I mean, I guess there's something to be said for that. You know, if I was going to the office every day, I'd kind of feel the same way. Pat, introduce yourself. Say what you do.
Pat Caruso, own a staffing business, and I am a pharmacist.
Now, the staffing business can't be rocking and rolling right now, or
Are
is
you
it?
kidding me?
Is it?
Staffing nurses?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Well, you didn't say that specifically, even though you told me
Yes.
personally before. Well, tell me a little bit about that. So, has it been nuts? Are you guys scrambling? Or are you looking for people?
Yeah, we're looking for a lot of people.
Tell somebody that might be watching this who might be interested how to get in touch with you.
Yeah. So if you're a nurse and you want to make a ton of money because you get a bunch of tax-free money being a traveling nurse, you can go through a staffing agency and work around the country wherever you want. As a matter of fact, the federal government has lifted all limits on licensing. So if you're licensed in one state, you can work in all 50 states. So under this
that seems
new
reasonable.
plan, yeah. And then if you want to become like extremely wealthy, you can go to like New York or Detroit.
Gotcha. Now, do these places now being? I mean, I would imagine you'd know this being the staffing agency. Do places like that, are they offering essentially hazard pay?
Yes, that's what it is.
Okay. Okay. Now you said something else. You said you also.
I work as a pharmacist.
Yes, that was it. So okay, how's that going?
It's going okay. We're pretty slow. We're in a strip mall. We've been severely affected by this downturn because in the strip mall, there's about 15 businesses. And basically out of those 15 businesses, there's Jet's Pizza and a dog food store left. So it's rather depressing as I walk to UPF to get my Coke in the morning to walk by,
Wait, where are you scoring your Coke? The parking lot of a UDF?
Yes, it's excellent. Excellent Coke.
You'll have that. So do you think that shopping mall's demise is a result of poor management, bad location? Is there any circumstance that makes it seem like it should be like that?
No, I mean, it's that all the businesses have been ordered closed.
Oh, you're saying that are still open. I thought I'm sorry, the implication I got, I'm still thinking in the old days. The implication I got was that the place had like cleared out all its tenants. No, everything's there, but they're all closed.
Yeah,
right,
it was normally packed.
Oh, well, that's good. That means that you could ostensibly see some point in the future where the pharmacy would, I mean, for some reason, I just would think pharmacies would be rocking and rolling right now too, but I guess, I mean, I don't know.
It depends. Like a lot of the independents, even the well-established independents, have had to cut their hours. So there's a pharmacy in Mason that's really popular called Yost Pharmacy, and they've even cut back their hours. So
you can find them online, folks. Yost.
Yeah.
You heard it here.
Yeah, they're great. Dave Yost, man, he's a hell of a guy, and Dick Yost was the original owner. But
did you say he wrestled a bear?
Like everyone's flocking to the chain, like Walgreens, CVS.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, that happened 25 years ago when places like Kroger's and stuff built pharmacies into the corners of the store, just added a level of convenience, and it was difficult to compete with.
Yeah.
So Bart, commercial roofing, your life is exactly the same. I mean, there's a lot of people that would trade places with you. I mean,
I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm real fortunate that I still have my job for the time being, as we all are. But I don't get to go anywhere, and you get to go hang out on roofs and shit. They say the virus is airborne now. So is there any like if you're out doing a roof, let's say, what's the average crew? Give me a ballpark. How many people are going on a job?
It's me and 4 other guys.
Okay. Now, are you guys gloved and masked, or is it just like
we just deal with dirt, so it's usually dirty and nasty. We're spread apart. I mean, as much as you can be.
Well, there's not a lot of making out in those jobs anyway.
Yeah, I know. No one's good looking, so.
So your life's not the heaven you described.
Right. So and like tomorrow, I go to the Cincinnati Zoo. I've got some work to do there. They're keeping their construction going. So it's just I can drive my truck all the way up into the zoo and not worry about people showing up to look at animals.
Right.
So.
Right. Now, what's I mean, this is good for both of you guys. What's your instinct on something like the zoo? I mean, obviously there's a lot of revenue on something like that that's based on membership sold and philanthropy and things like that. But I mean, the fact that the zoo's continuing with their construction efforts, doesn't that kind of seem to indicate an expected, relatively soon resumption of normal activities?
So the projects they do are already funded. So things that started before the coronavirus are still continuing.
Right.
But
okay, so I'm sorry. You and I talked about this a little bit without doing this. So you've got jobs that are already funded, things that were already ordered, contracts that were already signed.
Yes.
But you've been with your company for a while, so you've probably got your finger on the pulse beyond just going from day to day. Has there been any slowdown in future things? Do you guys pace yourselves in such a way? There has.
So we also do residential, and several projects that were in the pipeline dried up, went on hold. People are afraid of their money.
Right.
So it's kind of uncertain times. I mean,
they're afraid. No, they're afraid of it not being around.
Exactly. So
I feel like both of you are in lagging industries. Like right now, everything's okay, but what's it going to be like 6 months down the road for real estate, software, or roofing?
Well, I mean, what else are you going to do though? I mean, my boss in my company, his attitudes of eternal optimism. This is a glitch, yeah, and it's a drag, and it's a tragedy, and we got to be there for each other. He's actually been kind of great about the whole thing, but I think I don't know if you can function with the idea that things are going to change all that much. I agree with you that it's hard to project that far, but what do you do? How do you prepare for something like that aside from just moving forward the way you always have?
Do you know that you have like 32,000 objects that are located behind you?
Yeah, it's actually. I'm glad you pointed this out. Someone else pointed this earlier, but it's actually
like a thrift store.
Right, that's exactly what was said.
Yeah.
But no, it's actually it's a game. Later, I'm going to award prizes for the people that can name every one of the 46 objects behind me.
I want the Scooby-Doo van.
You can have the Scooby-Doo van. I've even got all the dudes. I've got all the dudes. Look here. Oh,
I just want Shaggy.
You just want Shaggy?
And then Bart's in a chair for the morbidly obese. Look at Shaggy.
This is my most neutral spot to sit, Pat.
Yeah, all the rest of his house is. I'm not even gonna. All the rest of his house is a sadomasochism dungeon.
It's covered in leather.
Me and Pat were talking about the fact that Zoom was security issue ridden, and
God, yeah.
Well, I the first time someone said that to me was this teacher I had on, and he said piracy was an issue, and I said, well, I'm looking for more views, so I'm okay with that. And then Pat said that he had a function he was at totally bombed with dick pics and stuff, and I would be all right with that too, probably.
I was actually going to falsely Zoom bomb the meeting and act like we were really getting bombed, but I'm unwilling to show my genitals, so.
Thank God.
Well, I mean, see, that's the thing, Pat. It's the beautiful age of the internet. You know better than this. And it's not like you haven't faked some profile somewhere with someone else's picture anyway.
Oh, yeah. I do that all the time.
Oh, shit. So, Pat, what's your projection? I mean, let's say, I don't really know enough about what the staffing business even looks like to be able to speculate on. I mean, if you're busy right now, how do you position that for a future that's so uncertain?
Your guess is as good as mine. Like, everything could blow up.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and say you require everybody to wear blue.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is what are your guys' sense? You're both intelligent people, been around a long time. We've all known each other a long time. What is your sense? Is it going to just blow over? I kind of feel like it's much more impactful than that.
I don't mean to be depressing, but I think unemployment's over 30%, and I think that we could possibly go into a Great Depression. I know that sounds awful, but
Well, we've already had a Great Depression. I mean, the next depression is probably just going to be okay. Sequels are never as good. Sorry. Sorry.
I don't.
The unemployment rates is something that I agree that I think most people are underestimating. I'm sorry, Bart, go ahead.
I don't think they can continue to just keep everybody at home much longer without severely damaging people's livelihoods.
Well, yes. I mean, people that work retail or service right now, and
they're demolished.
They are demolished. I mean, if they can hold on until all the other shit can get sorted out, because they lifted a lot of the restrictions on unemployment benefits, and they lifted a lot of the limitations on times, and but apparently the systems are so flooded that it's not working anyway.
Well, and you have all these companies. We know a lot of people in the service industries and the restaurant industries. I mean, you were in it forever, and I married from it, and I mean, those people, they operate on such small margins. Those things,
there's no margin.
Restaurant lasting a year is incredible.
Yeah, there's no margin, and that's I heard something on NPR like 2 weeks ago, and it was before they started putting these shelter-in-place orders in place, and that was a good sentence. And this guy was saying, think about your neighborhood, or think about just the immediate area in the city you live in. If everything's forced to shut down, even for 2 weeks or even for a month, which are, hugely optimistic minimum time periods, 3/4 of those places won't ever open again.
Correct.
Are the independent ones, I've been trying to encourage Christina, we've been trying to, find ways that we can give money to, like the Quarter announced yesterday, apparently, which is a restaurant in Marymount, Ohio that I used to work at. The Quarter.
Yeah, I saw you post about that.
I shared the post that one of their managers did, which is that they're doing carry-out food Thursday through Sunday from 5 to 8, and you can order at 2 o'clock and get a time. And I just think, anytime you talk to people about this stuff, you just say point blank, if there's a bar or a restaurant that you love, don't hesitate to reach out and see if there's a way you can keep them afloat. Because, like my brother,
I want to ask you a question. Name one job or industry that, if this is more than 4 months, is not going to be severely affected.
I don't think real estate will be. Real estate's pivoting.
If people don't have money, they can't buy a house.
I mean, yeah, of course, but that's always true, Pat. That's always true. I understand the unemployment. I understand it. I understand it. It will be affected. Obviously, the numbers would be reduced because the number of buyers would start falling off. But the number of buyers has been more than the number of sellers for years now, anyway. Really, I just.
2009.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing is, even in 2009, apparently there was 4.3 million transactions that year, right? Which was like kind of a low tide mark, and it was only 1 million less than the banner year we just had the year before last. So, I mean,
well, that's cool because I want to sell my house. So there you go.
I keep telling you, let me know. We'll get that worked out for you. I can get that worked out for you. Notwithstanding your current relationship with your realtor. Right. But you see, that's the thing is there's industries that have to survive, for all the people that cry about things about government bailouts and so on and so forth. There's industries that have to survive for anything else to function, warehousing, production, supply, manufacturing. There's things that they're just going to continue. There's going to be a market. Money's going to be spent. There's a lot of money being spent right now. People are buying stuff for their homes that they normally wouldn't,
Well, it's the question of how long this is going to last. Because if people run out of money, even the government's not going to get their tax revenue.
Right. Well, yeah.
City of Cincinnati's having that problem right now.
Yeah.
They had to furlough 1,700 people because the tax revenues dipped. So,
and even weird things that you wouldn't think of. Locally, nurses are getting laid off because they got rid of all the elective surgeries, and because we don't have enough COVID people filling the hospitals, hospitals are taking huge hits right now.
This is an interesting thing. I have a neighbor who's a nurse. This is an interesting thing to delve into. This is a circumstance that I think is probably true in a lot of municipalities all over the country. The preparation for this flood that hasn't quite hit yet is affecting people negatively in the industry right now. Just the preparation for it, and so I don't know. I mean, there's no easy answers. It's a complicated circumstance.
It's a complicated game.
Yes.
My favorite song.
It's your favorite song? Like of
Yes.
all time? Just it.
It's up there.
Is it? I was listening to an Enon song tonight called Conjugate the Verbs that I like a lot. So there you go. Bart, check it out. It's a little oogie oogie at the beginning, but if you stick with it,
sounds
it
very
off.
oogie oogie.
You stick with it, it pays off at the end. ENON, conjugate the verbs. Look it up.
I wish I could explain.
I know you will. Yeah, I know you will.
I wish I could explain how my relationship with you started out.
What, buying pot from me?
Or just getting into the whole culture.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, welcome aboard. Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
You know, you were saying 30% unemployment. I mean, what's that going to look like?
Bad.
What's it? I mean, yeah, bad. But when you say it's going to be bad? It's going to be very bad, obviously, for that 30%. But what's it going to look like just overall? How's it going to affect the day-to-day? I mean, you see a vast increase in property crimes. You see in population dispersal and displacement. I mean, tell me what you're looking at. Tell me what you think.
I think that it's something that we've never seen before, so there's no way to tell what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an epic thing that's happened. It's never happened before.
You know, it is.
All three of us will be fine because we have huge savings set aside. So we'll be
You know, the unemployment picture is similar to the Great Depression. You were talking 25-30% back then.
No, I think the high water mark of the Great Depression was only 25. You know, but you know, and that, like I said, it was huge.
Pot.
You know, let me think about that. Yeah, I've got you know, the whole truth of the matter is it's a bad business to get into right now if you don't have a pretty good infrastructure behind you.
Well, the cops won't arrest you. They're not even arresting anybody unless you kill somebody. So
I you know, City of Cincinnati, and this was actually a while ago now. City of Cincinnati put out this public announcement that they wouldn't be responding to calls for traffic accidents without injuries, property crimes. They wouldn't be
certain
responding
assaults,
to anything.
even.
Yeah, certain assaults. Well, you know, my you know, if I called up and said my wife hit me with her shoe, they probably aren't sending a car.
They said they wouldn't respond.
Never responded to anything anyways. I mean, if you ever were a victim of crime in Clifton, it wasn't like they were racing to show up.
There was only ever 4 cops up there anyway.
Yeah.
4 cops, 2 cars.
I think I've been hit by every single one of them too.
I've been told there's like a Ludlow conspiracy that virtually every business up there's been hit and robbed, but they don't report it because it's bad for business, and the cops never respond to it. You think that that's total BS?
I'm sorry. Run this conspiracy by me again. That the business community. Wait, hang on. Let me see if I can summarize it for myself to understand better. The business owners in the Gaslight community of Clifton on Ludlow suppress knowledge of property crimes to make sure their property values and businesses don't get hurt by it.
That is correct. That there have been crimes against businesses in Ludlow Gaslight that, number one, don't get responded to by the cops. Number two, that the businesses don't report because it's bad for business. They don't want Ludlow Gaslight to appear unsafe.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. I don't know anything about it, but I bet that kind of stuff goes on all the time. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, a news story comes out that that a guy was conked over the head with a cinder block and raped in the back of a, you know, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a business on Ludlow, in the back of Graders.
Well, remember when we would go to Sudsy Malone sometimes, and you would come out on Vine Street, and there were those huge crowds, and people. Everyone who went out the front door got the crap beat out of them. But never made the news.
Yeah, actually, that stuff did kind of make the news. I mean, it wasn't reported to the extent that you would imagine. But I don't know if I buy this suggestion that the business owners up there suppressed it. It's not like they were happy it was going on. You know, yeah, there were times when walking around Short Vine was like walking a gauntlet because all the kids from Coreyville would come up, and there were times when it was kind of ugly. But wasn't that part of the reason that people like to hang out in that area? Bart, didn't you have a particular affinity for places that you were pretty sure you weren't supposed to be hanging around?
Oh God, yeah. Most of the bars up there didn't like me coming in.
Oh no, I'm not talking about you personally. That was the whole city at one point. Shit, here's that McKinney guy. Yeah, but I mean, I understand that. I don't know that there's a conspiracy, but I mean that makes sense, right?
First I've heard of it.
Me too.
I know.
Good job, Pat. Way to spread the rumors.
It's
No,
hard for me
it's
not
gonna
to
go
talk
down in
about
history.
our youth and all the craziness that happened.
Talk about what the whole thing is, man. As I wanted to get people's opinions about what they're going through with quarantine and so on and so forth. But
I know.
I don't
Lead
care.
on.
I don't
Lead
know.
on.
I don't care. You can talk about whatever you want. I'm just
Do you
glad you're
remember
here
that
talking to
time
me.
that you had just given up on life and you took like a razor and you cut your head with the razor and you cut your hair and
No,
then
I cut my hair. I didn't cut my head with a razor. I
cut your
my hair badly.
with a
badly.
safety razor. But then you like went downtown in hopes that you would get like beat up and you were unsuccessful.
Yep. Yeah. And
that was awful.
I spent a good portion of that night on the roof of a building directly across from the courthouse at the corner of Sycamore and Central Parkway.
Yeah, I never knew what you did. You just said that was your intention. So did you like yell at people or?
Yeah. No, it's like that. No, that's the thing is, it's like I worked at this place. There was actually another 5-star restaurant in Cincinnati besides the Masonette years ago. It was called the Gourmet Room. It was at the top of the Hilton, and I worked there for a time, and I wanted to get fired, and I discovered how difficult it is to actually get fired when it's what you want to happen. And this is an absolutely true story. I was a busser, which was my, what I did in most restaurants I worked at until I managed to develop, I shouldn't say the skill, I should say the knowledge that there's better money in interacting more directly with people. But, right. But, you would, when they would do table side Caesar salads where they'd grind up the, anchovies and stuff, right? Yeah, it was fancy. And then the busser was supposed to come around after the salads were served by the server and offer fresh ground pepper. And so I used to go up to tables with this pepper grinder and go, fresh ground pepper for your ass. and people wouldn't, they would look at me because they wouldn't be sure that they heard me. And then just to add confusion, I would say, how about for your salad? I did this for weeks. I did it for weeks and weeks. It might even have been months I did this. And there was this Belgian guy who was the maitre d' and essentially managed the floor. And he came up to me, his name was Walter. He came up to me after a shift and he said, someone tonight claimed you cursed at their table. True story. So I finally got fired. It took like 2 months though. So
you did get fired for it.
Yes, I did. But the point of the story is going out one night with the desire to get beat up isn't putting forth the effort.
That's true. Well, they just posted that COVID party that they had on Liberty, and I was like, man,
Christine was talking about that.
I did that Scott thing, and I wanted to get beat up. If I would have just like shown up at that party, if I would have.
No, I'm telling you right now, you would have had the time of your life.
I would have been up there dancing on the roof with everyone else.
Yep, with everyone else. Someone would have labeled you some crazy motherfucker. You would have been the toast of the party.
That would have been great.
At one point, you would have been carried around on people's shoulders.
Then I would have been the one person they arrested the next day. They arrested that poor guy with a misdemeanor that filmed it. I was like, you guys said that you're not arresting anybody for anything, but you're arrested that. They found him like the next day, just like hanging out.
This is a good subject. What do you think of that? I mean, Duarte over in the Philippines was telling people this week he was going to bury them if they left their house.
He's going to shoot them if they got caught outside.
I will bury you. But what do you guys think of that? I mean, Christina's very, very adamant. She doesn't want to go in any stores. She wants to wear masks, gloves, all that stuff. And she's very adamant about people following the prescribed behaviors. What do you guys think? I mean, how serious a crime is that?
What, to be outside?
Or to gather a group of people, to deliberately put a group of people together under these circumstances?
I'm not exactly sure that I think we're trading a lot of freedoms right now.
Let me put it to you this way. There was a huge group of suburban teenagers having a party in my parking lot and no police arrested them. So
that's because you forgot to call them.
See, now I'll get myself in trouble saying it's because it was the wrong neighborhood that guy got arrested.
This the thing is, you can't. I mean, how are you getting yourself in trouble for pointing out an obvious disparity in circumstance? It was over the Rhine. It was mostly African American people, right?
Yeah.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, sorry, but I mean, Christina told me about it. I didn't actually read the story, but that's the thing is, there's a lot of hue and cry about churches too, like Solid Rock Church having it's like 600 people at service today, and what do you think?
We're doomed to be another Italy.
You could have stopped with, "I think we're doomed."
I know. I'm like, we're gonna go into a Great Depression. We're all gonna freaking die. No, but I think we're going to be another Italy, just from the standpoint, like Bart pointed out, is like if you tell Americans they can't do something, they just rankle at it. You know what I mean? Like, we're a nation of rebels.
Not a nation of rebels. We're a nation of human beings. That's not an American quality.
It's hard to dictate
liberty
against human behavior.
It is.
So
I mean, but Bart, losing a lot of liberties. So I mean, all over the world, there's been stories over the last couple of weeks of countries who have been affected far less significantly than we have. And yeah, I understand the argument about how, percentage of population, and it's really not that big a deal, and the flu kills more people, and But we're not even. I don't think we've really begun. But anyway, but you said loss of liberties. I mean, it's not just loss of liberties. I mean, the last couple of weeks, I mean, they've changed, repealed. I mean, some of the EPA. I didn't understand the easing of all EPA restrictions and the retracting of any EPA violations during this difficult time. It's almost like, but what do you feel? I mean, liberties. What do you feel like it's going to be? What do you think's a threat?
Here's how I view this. Okay, so Governor DeWine comes out and just proclaims this edict. Everybody has to do this. Why not?
Everybody should, I believe, is how it was presented. But
however, this is stay in place type. Hey, if you're out, and people now have been affected with their freedom, getting arrested, like this guy downtown.
Right.
Why not have the legislature give him the power to do that, instead of having some unelected official basically say, "Hey, there's this health crisis that if we do this, it may or may not help it, but we're going to go ahead and just shut everybody down, and we're going to take away your." So like we were talking earlier about these businesses that they've shuttered.
Right.
It's basically taken away people's ability to provide for their families.
But I understand that, and that's kind of why I wanted to delve into this a little bit, because you know how I am. I love a great conspiracy, and I'm always thinking the man's trying to get everybody down. So when I hear words like, we're trading liberties, but at the same time, it's like difficult to argue with the logic of some of these shuttering of businesses. There was the recommendation to minimize contact and to cut down on social gatherings, and it just happened to fall the weekend of St. Patrick's Day. It didn't go that well.
Yeah, I mean, to basically make 30% of your population unemployed and to shutter businesses for an indeterminate amount of time, I'm still debating in my mind whether or not that is way too extreme, or are they taking the right steps, or, I mean, they're basically, this is a full blown, hey, we're going all in 100%. Let's shutter all this stuff without even the health officials don't even really have all the numbers.
Well, no, but the numbers have been impossible to be. People have been freaking out about various counts and stuff.
It's like
there's no accurate counts.
It's kind of like, I use the analogy, hey, there's a couple of bad ears of corn in this field, so let's scorch the entire field to save some stuff.
Well, okay, let's look at that analogy for a second. If the analogy was a little different, it was, here's a couple of bad ears of corn in this field that might kill people, and we know for a fact that how much corn this has been in contact with could do the same thing. I mean, I like I was saying before, Christina's very, I'm not wearing masks when I go out. I'm washing my hands a lot and eating vitamin C. and I'm not licking doorknobs or making out with my cashier at the grocery store. But but at the same time,
why not?
Well, we'll get it. We'll save that for another show. But but the thing is, I can't help but kind of accept a certain amount of even what seems extreme caution. I mean, we proved as a society, and maybe not universally, but we proved as a society early on that it wasn't going to be taken that seriously, that people weren't going to really change how they did stuff. And they had other empirical evidence of what happened with other countries to suggest that was going to be really bad. And they, I mean, it comes down to acceptable losses. Do we leave these business open and accept, 1 million dead, or do we close these business now and maybe come out at 200,000? That's how I look at it anyway.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that what they're doing is right or wrong. The definition of a quarantine is people that are susceptible to or have a disease. Typically, they would take those out of the population. That was a quarantine. Or isolate the ones that are at high risk, let the rest of the world go about their business. I'm not exactly sure that, because even if it was 10% of the infected would be harmed irreparably, to make 100% of the population alter everything. And now we have a government that has just passed arguably a $4 trillion or $6 trillion stimulus package. They say it's $2 trillion, but in the end, it's a lot more than that. We don't make that kind of money.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing, though, is they're gonna make some of it back.
That's some scary numbers that we're talking about there. They're trying to give checks to people, but they're throwing all this largesse on all these other things on top of it, and it's just like, where do you have $2 trillion?
The thing is about $2 trillion. I mean, you look at the actual money that they're giving to the population. It's barely a quarter. Yeah, it's barely a quarter. If you do the math out, and it doesn't hold true because it's not all the taxpayers. But if you just multiply the population by the $1,200 or whatever, so there's billions and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars that are arbitrarily going to businesses that the DOJ chooses with no oversight whatsoever. That's what worries me. The money being given to the taxpayers makes a lot more sense to me.
Hopefully, some of that money is going to go to my business. That's for sure.
I doubt it. No, you can apply for it if you want to, but I promise you that money's going to go right in the pockets of a handful of members of this administration. That's what's going to happen.
We've applied for it.
Of course you have.
So is our company. Our company's applied for everything they can.
That's the thing, is you have to. And I don't want to get into a talk about the administration, but
no, and I'm not trying to. It's just, but these are the results of what's going on. So now we have elected officials that are just like, now that we've created this mess.
They haven't created the mess. No, see, I think that's the wrong point of view. They haven't created this mess. They've just been. They haven't been particularly good at dealing with it.
So they're trying to handle this coronavirus, which we have a novel virus happen every 10 years or so.
No, it's like every year there's a different variation of something.
And it's always from bird shit or bat shit or something like that. They're all avian flus. So we have these, and we have this $11 billion agency called the CDC that should be up on top of these things, but they're not.
They're not.
So now we're trying to control it. So to control it, it's like, okay, let's just decimate all this stuff, and then now let's give people all this stuff that we've decimated.
Yeah,
it's kind of like they're chasing after their own. It's like ready, fire, aim. That's how I'm seeing it being viewed.
That's the way it's. I agree with you that's a pretty good analogy, the way it's been handled over the last month, for sure.
And that's kind of scary to me.
And I understand that too. I've told a million people. I don't think the impact of this.
So to me, the people who are high risk, people that are at a higher risk of contracting this disease, should probably take the steps necessary to remove themselves and let people go back to doing what they do. It's kind of like,
What about the high percentage of people that are asymptomatic, that are just wandering around, don't even know they have it, and they're just spreading it?
Well, who's to say that until they do an antibody count, they don't know how many people have had it. millions of people could have already had it, and it's just
True.
a non-issue. They don't know. They don't have those
That's
numbers.
the thing that sucks, because if you could test people, I still feel like it's the testing. If you could test people and show that someone already had it, then they could go back to work because you wouldn't have to worry about them
Exactly.
We're not there. We're not there yet. We're talking about a disease that's only been acknowledged to exist since the first week of December of last year. We're not there yet. We're just not there yet. We're not there. We can't tell who's had it and who hasn't. And subsequently, I would argue that you err on the side of caution. I mean, it's idealistic to say the least to say, yeah, we isolate the people that are high risk, and then with the people that have it, we isolate too. The problem is they don't know. We've not been good. Nobody in the world has been good at nailing down who does and doesn't have it. I really feel like that these measures, while extreme, and I understand exactly what you're saying about stacking the entire population against a small percentage, but it still comes down on cutting down on loss of life, right? Doesn't it? I mean, really?
I don't know. At least we get press conferences every day. That's very exciting.
wine with DeWine.
Oh my God.
Oh, you know why you just said, "Oh my God," because you know the angel of death has taken part in a wine with DeWine one week.
So what I've done is I've basically turned off the news. I go to the CDC website once every few days. That's about it. It's basically they put death meters up on their screens. Basically, it's like, oh look,
there's apps. You could download an app that shows the world count and the world death count and the world recovery count. No, it's true. But there's a reason to watch that stuff. When those numbers start increasing exponentially, we'll be in fucking trouble.
I'll tell you what.
I don't know. I like to watch the president speak because every time he says incredible, I have to take a drink. But the one word you have to hold out for, is beautiful. If he says something's beautiful, God bless him.
You know, it's a miracle you're not in the hospital right now. If you're drinking every time Trump says miracle, beautiful, or incredible.
Coronavirus would be the least of your worries.
Yeah, boys, I'm down to a minute and a half, and we're gonna do this again because I've really enjoyed this.
Oh, we're being timed.
No, I told you guys this, or maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't.
No, you didn't.
No, so there's a 45-minute hard out from the time I start this meeting until it's all over and we all get kicked out. It's part of having the free Zoom account versus the paid one. But I like it. But no, here's the thing. You guys know.
You cheap bastard, you.
I know.
Well, no, you guys know me well enough to know that if I had more than 45 minutes, these things would go on forever. We would just bullshit forever. We would. Will you guys do this again with me sometime soon?
Absolutely.
I don't know. We're both so occupied now.
I'm gonna have to get cool like Pat though and get that weird background he's got going on.
Don't do it. It's been creeping me out the entire time.
I'll change it to like a Banksy background or something.
There you go.
That's awesome. Okay, that's cool. You can pick any background that you want.
I love you guys.
A bad Al Shuttlecotty from 1970 or something. I don't know. All right.
Al Shuttlecotty. I love you guys. Take care.
Hey,
all right.
Thanks, Scott. See you, Pat.
Thank you guys. We'll do this again soon.
See you guys.
Absolutely.